Okay, so I'm just going to do a Chapter 5 quiz that was randomly generated on Vanco, and hopefully by watching me answer these problems, it'll help you when you do the Chapter 5 quiz or when you do Chapter 5 problems on the exam. So let's get started. For the first problem, for a particular good, a 10% increase in price causes a 5% decrease in quantity demanded. Which of the following statements is most likely applicable to this good? So we want to find the price elasticity of demand. Remember, that's equal to the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So have 5 over 10 or 0.5. So for the demand for this good is inelastic, meaning that if you raise the price by quite a bit, the quantity demanded doesn't fall by very much. So consumers are not very responsive to a change in price. So this tends to be true for goods that there are very few substitutes for. Things that are necessities, like insulin for a diabetic, or things that people are addicted to, like alcohol or tobacco, or broad categories of goods. So the right answer would be B, the good is a necessity. Okay, so again, we're looking for something that tends to make demand for good inelastic. If there's a lot of substitutes for the good, and that would tend to make it more elastic. If the market for good is narrowly defined, it would tend to make it elastic. So they were talking about like a particular brand of a product. Well, there's a lot of substitutes for a particular brand of a product. Or D, the relevant time horizon is long, when people are able to find more substitutes if they have a long time than if they only have a short amount of time. So all these other things, A, C, and D, are tending to make a good's demand more elastic. But for something that's a necessity, the demand is inelastic. So the right answer is B. Second problem. When demand is inelastic, an increase in price will cause... Alright, so this is asking you this is trying to find out rather whether you understand the relationship between price and total revenue. So remember that total revenue is just equal to price times quantity. And if the price of a product increases, the total quantity sold will decrease. So there's two things going on. A price increase means that a business will get more money for each unit that they sell, but they'll sell fewer units. So the question is, which one of these effects is greater? And for a good that has an inelastic demand, the price effect dominates. Right? So inelastic demand is something that there's few substitutes for, something where if the price goes up by quite a bit, consumers are going to buy almost as much as before. So if you jack up the price, the quantity demanded will fall, but not by a whole lot. So on net, your total revenue is going to rise. So when demand's inelastic, an increase in price will cause an increase in total revenue. So the right answer is A. And a decrease in price will cause a decrease in total revenue. The next problem. Which of the following is likely to have the most price inelastic demand? Okay, so remember, if demand for the product is price inelastic, it means that there's few substitutes for the good. So either it's a broad category like all liquids or all clothing, or there's a short time horizon, it's a necessity, things like this. So A, strawberry banana milkshake, well, that's a very narrowly defined good. And if the price of strawberry banana milkshakes go up, well, you could just buy a chocolate milkshake, or you could buy some other dessert. You have a lot of other options. So consumers will tend to buy a lot fewer strawberry banana milkshakes if the price of just strawberry banana milkshakes goes up. The demand for that product is elastic. They respond a lot to a change in price. Or for diamond earrings, that's a luxury. There's a lot of different luxuries. Price goes up, people tend to buy a lot less. Box seats at a Major League Baseball game, that's a luxury entertainment item as well. So demand for that's going to be elastic. So B is the only good that would have an inelastic demand. Gasoline in the short run. So if the price of gasoline goes up, people purchase almost as much in the short run as they did before. And in the longer run, they'll purchase a little bit less because they'll figure out ways to conserve on gas. But the right answer is B. Right, next problem. When consumers face rising gasoline prices, they typically Well, we just kind of discussed this. In the short run, they are going to buy almost as much gas as before, so they'll reduce their quantity that they buy by a little bit, but not by a lot. And in the long run, they'll reduce their demand more in response to higher gasoline prices. So they'll buy more fuel-efficient cars, move closer to work, and just figure out other ways to conserve on gas. So this is what happened in the 70s when the OPEC cartel formed. Price of gas rose substantially, and people stopped buying those gas guzzlers. In the long run, they just started making more fuel-efficient cars. So the right answer is A. They would reduce their quantity demanded more in the long run than in the short run. So in the long run, they have more substitutes. Next problem. The midpoint method for calculating elasticities is convenient in that it allows us to, remember the whole reason why we're doing this is because we want to get the same answer if we're moving from point A to point B as we would get if we moved from point B to point A along two specific points along the demand curve. And when we use the standard method, right, we get a different answer depending upon whether we're looking at a rise in price causing a reduction in quantity or a reduction in price causing a rise in quantity between the same 2 points, A and B. And that's kind of a problem. That's why we're using the midpoint method. So the right answer is B. Right? It allows us to calculate the same value for the elasticity regardless of whether the price increases or decreases, whether we're moving up or down the demand curve. So you're going to get the same answer between any 2 points on the demand curve, right, regardless of which one you use as the starting point and which one you use as the end point, and that's what we want. So the right answer is B. Next problem. Refer to figure 511. If the price rises from point D to point C, total revenue. Now remember, total revenue is equal to price times quantity. So first we're at point D where the price is $3, and that means if you go over to the demand curve and down, you see that the quantity that's going to be bought is 14. So the total revenue is price times quantity. So it's $3 times 14 units of the goods sold. So the total amount of revenue is $42. And if the price rises to $4, and we go to point C, see that at $4 you go over the demand curve and down, it shows you that only 12 units of the product will be purchased. So the total revenue is going to be $4 times 12 units is going to be $48. So the total revenue is going to rise if the price rises from $3 to $4. So that's the first part of the problem. And remember that if a rise in price causes a rise in total revenue, then that means that demand is inelastic over that portion of the demand curve. If the price rises and the total revenue falls, it means it's elastic. So here we found that from $3 to $4, that rise in price causes an increase in total revenue, and demand is inelastic. So the right answer must be C. Total revenue increases and the demand is price inelastic. So the right answer is C. Which of the following could be the price elasticity of demand for a good for which an increase in price would increase revenue? Remember, for a good with an inelastic demand, an increase in price increases total revenue. For a good with elastic demand, an increase in price causes a reduction in total revenue. And if the income elasticity is less than 1, then demand is inelastic. If it's equal to 1, it's unitary. If it's greater than 1, it's elastic. So we're looking for a number that's less than 1, and the only number that's less than 1 is A, 0.2. So 0.2 is the right answer. The supply of a good will be more elastic now the key determinant of elasticity of supply, according to your book, is the longer the time horizon, the more elastic the supply. The shorter the time horizon, the less elastic the supply. So you might want to go and review that chapter of the book. It's actually a bullet point in the summary at the end. So A, B, and C are all things that tend to make the demand for a product more elastic. D's, the longer time horizons, the most important factor in determining the elasticity of supply. So the right answer is D. For a particular good, a 10% increase in price causes a 15% decrease in quantity demanded. Which of the following statements is most likely applicable to this good? So first let's figure out the elasticity of demand. Remember, the elasticity of demand is equal to the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So we have 15 over 10, or 1.5. So that means that the demand for the good is elastic. So if the price increases, the quantity decreases at an even greater percentage. Okay, so for any given rise in price, consumers are very responsive. They reduce their purchases by a lot, or it's very elastic. Okay, which means that this would tend to be something for which there are a lot of substitutes. So either a very narrowly defined product, like a particular brand, like a Coke or a Pepsi, as opposed to a broad category like liquids. Or it could be something that is a luxury instead of a necessity, or it could be something we could talk where there's a long time horizon involved. So let's see, let's go through the choices. We're looking for something where there are lots of substitutes, so A isn't right. We're looking for something that is a luxury, so B is incorrect. We're looking for something where the market for the good is narrowly defined, so it's like a particular brand. So A, B, and C are all wrong, and the right answer is D. The time horizon is long, right? So in the long run, there's more substitutes than in the short run. The demand is going to tend to be more elastic. So D is the right answer. Next problem. When the price of a good is $5, the quantity demanded is 120 units per month. When the price is $7, the quantity demanded is 100 units per month. Using the midpoint method, the price elasticity of demand is about. So here we want percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. It doesn't give it to us in percentage terms. We have to figure out the percentage change. The way we find a percentage change using the midpoint method is taking the difference over the average of the two numbers. So for a percentage change in quantity demanded, well, that's 20 over the average, which is 110. So we have 20 over 110 on the top, and then we're going to divide that by the difference in price over the average price. So we're going to divide that by 2 over 6. So we have 20 over 110 divided by 2 over 6. So we're going to get an answer that's about 0.55, so the right answer is A. Next problem. Which of the following is likely to have the most price inelastic demand? Okay, so we're looking for either a short time horizon, a very broad category of goods, something where there's few substitutes. So let's see. For A, white chocolate chip macadamia nut cookies, well, there's a lot of substitutes for that. There's dark chocolate chip macadamia nut cookies. There's other cookies. There's other desserts. That'll probably have an elastic demand, so A is not right. Hardback novels, well, there's softback novels, there's ebooks. I mean, there's other forms of entertainment, TV. So B is not right. For something like box seats at a Major League Baseball game, that's a luxury. The demand is going to tend to be elastic. So C is the only thing that's going to have an inelastic demand because it's a broadly defined good, and also it's a small part of the budget. So if the price of salt were to double, I mean, I don't even think I would really even notice that. Some of you might, right? But I'd probably buy just about as much as before. I wouldn't really care if the price went up from $2 to $4. So be it, right? I'd hardly reduce my quantity purchased at all in percentage terms for even a doubling in the price. So I mean, clearly salt has a price inelastic demand. Next problem. Suppose that demand is inelastic within a certain price range. For that price range, so this is asking about the relationship between price and total revenue, and for if the demand is inelastic, an increase in price causes an increase in total revenue, and a decrease in price causes a decrease in total revenue. for an elastic demand, an increase in price causes a decrease in total revenue. Right, so we're talking about an inelastic demand curve. Increase in price causes an increase in total revenue, so we can just eliminate C and D right off the bat. And the key is that here the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price. So if the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down, but not by very much. Right, so the right answer is A. An increase in price would increase total revenue because the decrease in quantity demanded is proportionally less than the increase in price. For a good that is a necessity, demand tends to be inelastic. The right answer is A. There's few substitutes. And I believe this is the final problem. So a city wants to raise revenues to build a new municipal swimming pool next year. The mayor suggests that the city raise the price of admission to the current municipal pools this year to raise revenues. The city manager suggests that the city lower the price of admission to raise revenues. Who is correct? Well, the mayor would be right if the demand for municipal swimming pools is inelastic, and the city manager would be right if the demand were elastic. So remember, if it's inelastic, raise price, raise total revenue. If it's elastic, raise price, lower total revenue, or lower price, raise total revenue. So the right answer is D. The mayor would be correct if demand were price inelastic. The city manager would be correct if demand were price elastic. Oh, I was lying. There's one more problem. Okay, so this is the last problem. Last problem. Farm programs that pay farmers not to plant crops on all their land. Well, this is from one of the applications in your textbook. It was the first of the 3 applied examples of elasticity. So the demand for farm products tends to be inelastic. So an increase in price will increase total revenue. So if you have farm programs that pay farmers not to plant crops on all their land, the supply will be less, the price will be higher, farmers will make more revenue, so it'll help the farmers, but it'll hurt consumers by raising the amount that they have to pay for food. So this thing would help farmers at the expense of consumers. So anyway, so the right answer is C. It would help farmers by increasing total revenue in the market, but hurt consumers by raising food prices. All right, that's it for this little quiz, and as always, I hope you got something out of it.